Off to a dramatic start as representatives of opposition political parties walked out. They were demanding that government facilitate the return of their exiled leaders to participate in the process and refrain from unilaterally making appointments to structures of the reforms program.
It is a week since the official launch of the Lesotho Reforms Programme. This program is intended to ensure stability in Lesotho going forward. Now, many eyes are on this process. SADC and other stakeholders, including the United Nations, have warned that the process must be both inclusive and transparent.
The objective of the meeting?
That committee is the one now which is expected to engage different stakeholders in this process, so that after engagement, after consulting all the stakeholders, we can now have a process. We can agree on how the process should unfold.
Ministerial and senior government official committees have been appointed. 2 senior government officials have already been appointed to the secretariat, but the opposition objected and walked out.
We cannot stay here just to serve the interest of the people who have got who are now minority government, just to serve just to be threatened that leaving the meeting we are compromising ourselves.
But we continue to have the view that this process is completely without credibility or legitimacy until such time as it is a process in which the government is simply a player, not a overseer of the process.
And all the Lesotho who are in South Africa should be participating in this process.
Smaller parties have urged the opposition to remain and influence change from within. Civil society undertakes to mediate.
We will be doing our shuttle between government, opposition parties and other stakeholders.
But the National Stakeholder Conference will proceed in January.
But to say that we have a committee from the side of government doesn't say that other stakeholders will not be included.
The reforms to cover constitution and security sector are intended to ensure stability in a country that has constantly been on the SADC agenda. Ntakwana Ngatani, SABC News, Maseru, Lesotho.
Our correspondent Ntakwana Ngatana joins us on the line for more on developments from Lesotho. Ntakwana, thank you so much for joining us. Now, the opposition political parties walked out of proceedings. Any indication they will be getting back to the dialogue?
Good evening, Lulu. Well, from what we can make out, civil society, as you heard, are willing to play the mediating role in what now seems like an impasse between the government and the opposition. The small political parties that are not in parliament have pleaded with the opposition not to walk out or not to give up on this process as it is important for the country. They have also pleaded with them to say that even while they are in the opposition now, or if they were to get into government and be the ones to be driving the process, as they say the current government does not have the numbers, what if that government now becomes an opposition that acts like them? The nation will be at a loss. So they have pleaded with the opposition parties not to give up on the process. But civil society saying that from now onwards until the January conference, they will ensure that the parties come together so that when that national stakeholder conference actually happens, the issues that are of concern at the moment, that is the opposition leaders who are in exile, that is the appointment to the bodies of the reform program that have been done by the government, that the opposition say are were done without consultation, should be ironed out before that special conference, so that it focuses on the way forward as opposed to the objections that were being raised today. Lulu?
Now, Ntakwana, one of their key demands is the fact that they want the return of their exiled leaders to participate in the process. Is government going to bend backwards to allow this to happen? Well,
what the government has said in the past was that it has been engaging with the leaders of opposition. We know that the SADC Oversight Committee has cited this as one of the key issues that have to be addressed in the country in order for the reforms to be as inclusive as possible. We now know that civil society say they agree with the opposition parties, but also they advise them not to go out of the talks, to negotiate the return of the exiled leaders as a condition for the reforms to continue. Because, Lulu, these reforms or the reform program and process have the whole international community and the nation's eyes on it. And everyone is looking to it to see how Lesotho progresses so that it gets out of the SADC agenda and the agenda of the African Union. So we expect in the next few days, because we have only a month to January to see how civil society gets this into play. So we expect to see them negotiating with both sides and ensuring that this issue of the return of the opposition leaders becomes top of the agenda in terms of ensuring that the reform progress or the reform process continues. So we are looking at it to see what happens in the next days and weeks. Lulu?
Now, is the DC going to return to the coalition government?
Lulu, remember that the DC was split over the issue of leaving the coalition government. The Prime Minister's side, which has now finally suspended the deputy leader, who then subsequently said he was leaving the party and forming his own party, remains in the coalition government with some of the supporters who were supporting him, but also a new executive committee, 9 total members plus the executive, or rather the deputy leader, Munyane Moleleki, making it 10 elected to the National Executive of the Democratic Congress at a special conference that was convened by the leader after he won a court battle where he was suspended by his own executive led by his deputy leader, Munyane Moleleki. So at this point in time, Lulu, the Democratic Congress remains a partner in the current coalition government. But of course, Munyane Moleleki now saying that he and Lesotho Convention have signed an agreement and they are waiting for this government that they say doesn't have numbers to go to Parliament to prove in a motion of no confidence that they do have the numbers. But of course, the Prime Minister, Bakari Tamusisidi, has said if they try a motion of no confidence, he will use the power that he has vested in the Constitution to call an election and not resign as the two options that are available to him as a Prime Minister. Lulu?
Ntakwane, unfortunately, we have to leave it there for now. It is a story that we will be watching as it develops. Thank you so much for joining us. That was our correspondent joining us live from Lesotho.
Geez, that's how we wrap up a hectic first hour of Your World. We've got more news for you coming right up.
Stay with us.